Hello and welcome to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. My name is Todd, and here are today's top stories, top headlines just for you. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. As the U.S. mourns the victims of its latest mass shooting, 19 elementary school students and two teachers gunned down in Texas. Democratic governors are amplifying their calls for greater restrictions on guns. Many Republican governors are emphasizing a different solution: more security at schools. The divide among the nation's governors mirrors a partisan split that has stymied action in Congress and many state capitals over how best to respond to a record high number of gun-related deaths in the US. The political differences tap deep into the country's roots, highlighting the tensions between life, liberty, and the constitutional rights spelled out in the nation's founding documents. Next news. Mourners laid to rest the last of 10 Black people killed in a racist attack at a Buffalo supermarket, with a service on Saturday that became a call to action and an emotional plea to end the hate and violence that has racked the nation. The funeral for 86-year-old Ruth Whitfield, the oldest of the 10 Black people killed in the attack 2 weeks ago, included an impromptu speech by Vice President Kamala Harris. She attended the service at Mount Olive Baptist Church in Buffalo with Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff. Harris told the mourners this is a moment in time for all good people to stand up to the injustice that happened at the Tops Friendly Market on May 14th, 2022, as well as at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and in other mass shootings. Next news. Warnings of critical fire conditions blanketed much of the U.S. Southwest on Saturday, as crews in northern New Mexico worked to stop the growth of the nation's largest active wildfire. The 7-week-old fire, the largest in New Mexico history, has burned 491 square miles. That's 1,272 square kilometers of forest in rugged terrain east of Santa Fe, since being started in April by 2 planned burns. Crews were patrolling partially burned areas and clearing and cutting containment lines, including primary ones near the fire, as bulldozers scraped backup lines farther away. The National Weather Service issued red flag warnings of critical fire conditions for parts of Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah. Those conditions are combinations of strong winds, low relative humidity, and dry vegetation. Next news. The Victory Party took on the feel of an evangelical worship service after Doug Mastriano won Pennsylvania's Republican gubernatorial primary this month. As a Christian singer led the crowd in song, some raised their arms toward the heavens in praise. Mastriano opened his remarks by evoking scripture in quotes. God uses the foolish to confound the wise. End quotes. He claimed Pennsylvanians' freedom would be snatched away if his Democratic opponent wins in November, and cast the election in starkly religious terms with another biblical reference, in quotes. Let's choose this day to serve the Lord. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Thank you for being with us. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are hoping to console a city stricken by grief and anger when they meet with families affected by the mass shooting at a Texas elementary school that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The visit to Uvalde on Sunday is Biden's second trip in as many weeks to comfort a community in mourning after a staggering loss, terrible, horrifying loss. On May 17th, he was in Buffalo, New York, to meet with victims' families and condemn white supremacy after a shooter espousing the racist replacement theory killed 10 black people at a supermarket. The shootings in Texas and New York and their aftermath have put a spotlight on the nation's entrenched divisions and its inability to forge consensus on actions to reduce gun violence. Next news. With a rare opening this fall in its congressional delegation, Vermont appears poised to lose its distinction as the only state that has never been represented by a woman in Washington. 3 women, including Lieutenant Governor Molly Gray and Senate President pro tempore Becca Balint are among the Democrats competing in the August 9th primary for the seat being vacated by the state's lone U.S. House member, Democrat Peter Welch, who is trying to move to the Senate. The two Republican candidates registered to run in the midterm elections are also women. Given Vermont's liberal reputation, it might seem strange that it would be the last state to send a woman to Congress. But Vermont's tiny population makes it one of a handful of states with the smallest possible congressional delegation, 2 senators and 1 House member. Next news. Over 2,500 Jews visited Jerusalem's most sensitive holy site on Sunday ahead of a nationalist parade through the Old City, prompting Palestinians barricaded inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque to throw rocks and fireworks at the visitors and nearby Israeli police. Thousands of police were deployed throughout the city for Sunday's march, in which flag-waving Israeli nationalists planned to walk through the heart of the old city's main Palestinian thoroughfare. Israel says the march is meant to celebrate its capture, excuse me, oh, sorry, of East Jerusalem, including the Old City, in the 1967 Mid-East War. Israel has annexed East Jerusalem in a move that isn't internationally recognized and claims all of the city as its capital. Next news. The USS Oregon officially joined the U.S. Navy fleet on Saturday, marking the first submarine named after the Beaver State in more than a century. The newest Virginia-class fast attack submarine, which can dive to depths greater than 800 feet, that's 240 meters, was originally christened in 2019. But the COVID-19 pandemic, excuse me, created some slips in schedule for the crew, said U.S. Representative Joe Courtney, Democrat, Connecticut, whose district includes General Dynamics Corp's electric boat shipyard, where the 377-foot, that's 115-meter submarine was constructed, in quotes. But I think the record should be clear that despite that unprecedented disruption, you showed up for work every day and did your job. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. Thank you so much for being with us. Russian and Ukrainian troops engaged in close quarter combat in an eastern Ukraine city Sunday as Moscow soldiers, supported by intense shelling, attempted to gain strategic footholds for conquering the region in the face of fierce Ukrainian resistance. Ukrainian regional officials reported that Russian forces were storming Sievierodonetsk after trying unsuccessfully to encircle the city. The fighting knocked out power and cell phone service, and a humanitarian relief center could not operate because of the danger, the mayor said. Sievierodonetsk, located about 143 kilometers, 89 miles south of the Russian border, emerged in recent days as the epicenter of Moscow's quest to capture all of Ukraine's industrial Donbass region. Russia also stepped up its efforts to take nearby Lysychansk, where civilians rushed to escape persistent shelling. Next news. Salah Chelab crushed a husk of wheat plucked from his sprawling farmland south of Baghdad and inspected its seeds in the palm of one hand. There were several grams lighter than he hoped. In quotes, "It's because of the water shortages," he said, the farm machine roaring behind him, cutting and gathering his year's wheat harvest. Chalab had planted most of his 10 acres, that's 4 hectares of land. He was only able to irrigate a quarter of it after the Agriculture Ministry introduced strict water quotas during the growing season, he said. The produce he was growing, and the rest of it, he fears, will die without water. Next news. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and other top officials discussed revising stringent anti-epidemic restrictions during a meeting Sunday, state media reported, as they maintained a widely disputed claim that the country's first COVID-19 outbreak is slowing. The discussion at the North's Politburo meeting suggests it will soon relax a set of draconian curbs imposed after its admission of the Omicron outbreak this month out of concern about its food and economic situations. Kim and other Politburo members, in quotes, made a positive evaluation of the pandemic situation being controlled and improved across the country, end quotes, the official Korean Central News Agency said. Next news. The growing offshore wind industry is often touted as a boon for job creation, but who will do the work? The U.S. Energy Secretary and Danish wind developer Ørsted said they want American union workers to build offshore wind farms to dot the U.S. coastlines. The building trade the building trades workers who could otherwise be left out of a transition to renewable resources A majority of onshore wind and solar farms have been built either with non-union workers or without collective bargaining agreements, except for in California, where unions are more involved in the industry. We're going to take a short break from the daily global English news of Millennium News TV 24/7. Please stay with us. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to Millennium News TV 24/7 Global News Update. Here's the continuation of today's top stories. Thank you so much for being with us. Britain is getting ready for a party featuring mounted troops, solemn prayers, and a pack of dancing mechanical corgis. The nation will celebrate Queen Elizabeth II's 70 years on the throne this week for 4 days of pomp and pageantry in central London. But behind the brass bands, street parties, and a planned appearance by the aging Queen on the balcony of Buckingham Palace lies a drive to show the royal family still remains relevant after 7 decades of change. In quotes, the monarchy is not elected, so the only way in which a monarch can demonstrate consent is not through the ballot box, but through people turning out on the streets. End quotes. Next news. Amid financial troubles and changing times, the venue's new corporate owner is ditching most of the Lido's staff and its high-kicking, high glamour dance shows, which date back decades and inspired copycats from Las Vegas to Beirut, in favor of more modest musical reviews. Dressed in all black, dancers staged a protest Saturday on the broad sidewalk in front of the Lido, and then performed a dance routine to a cheering crowd, kicking their long legs high to a traditional cabaret song. They handed out leaflets to passers-by on the Champs-Élysées Avenue, who lamented the Lido's fate and warmly applauded the performance. Dancers from the Moulin Rouge came to support Lido staff and notably its historic Blue Bell Girls dance troupe. Next news. The New York Rangers got off to a strong start and didn't need a comeback to win another elimination game. One more like this, but on the road. and they'll be heading to the Eastern Conference Finals. Igor Shesterkin stopped 37 shots and became the fifth goalie in NHL history to have two assists in a playoff game. And the Rangers beat the Carolina Hurricanes 5-2 on Saturday night to force a deciding Game 7 in their second round series. Next news. Yet another Champions League title for Real Madrid, the undisputed king of Europe. Yet another showpiece European soccer game tarnished by chaotic crowd issues and disorder. Madrid became European champion for a record-extending 14th time, double the number of any team on the continent, after beating Liverpool 1-0 in a final that started 37 minutes late because of disturbing scenes outside the Stade de France on Saturday. It evoked memories of the violence that marred the European Championship final at Wembley Stadium 10 months ago. This has been the daily global English news update of Millennium News TV 24/7. Thank you so much for watching our program. Please log in to get the latest news on all of our social networking sites. That means Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. On TikTok, we are Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers, now on both network broadcasting, Android and iOS devices, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, also all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment, our latest news, views, editorials, Millennium TV apps, Millennium TV USA, Android, Millennium News Google, www.millenniumtv24.com. Please stay with Millennium News 24. Thank you, and God bless.